Next up, we've got a modern and tech-savvy approach to connecting and engaging consumers. A question we are all curious about is whether in-person events will come back. What does the future hold for mixology courses, reservations, holidays, and private events going forward for the industry? I want to welcome Justin Pallack, the General Manager of Singapore's 28 Hong Kong Street, and Frankie Solarik, co-owner of Barchef in Toronto, Canada. Justin has brought more than 20 years of nightlife experience to the legendary and pioneering cocktail venue. Previously the GM of award-winning Miami Cocktail Bar, Sweet Liberty Drinks and Supply Co., Justin's pedigree as an operator of world-renowned venues is hard to deny. As a native New Yorker, it is perhaps unsurprising that he began his career as a bartender in the notorious Hamptons nightclubs and then in the lounges of downtown Manhattan before starting a career as a much sought-after DJ. Frankie's venue, Barchef, has been rated by Food and Wine magazine as one of the top 7 new and innovative bars in the world. His work has earned him international acclaim, and he's been profiled in major national magazines, newspapers, and television shows, including Condé Nast, The Art of Plating, The New York Times, The National Post, The Globe and Mail, Imbibe magazine, Global TV, City TV, CNN, and CBC. I'm going to turn it over to Paul, who will take it away with these two innovative operators for this session, virtual events and creating consumer engagement.
All right, so thanks for that great introduction. And of course, here on Bar Virtual, we want to dive into some of the things that are really kind of the sign of the times here in the industry when you look at the bar business. And one of the topics that is really kind of flourishing in the sector, and that is virtual events and all kinds of online courses, a lot of creative things from bartenders and operators around the world. This is kind of a new normal. We are seeing a lot of different innovations occur. And with us today, I've got two great experts that are actually kind of walking the walk in this area of virtual events, mixology classes, and so on. I've got Frankie Solarik, which is the bar owner and co-founder at Barchef out of Toronto, Canada, and then also Justin Pallack, who's the GM at Singapore's 28 Hong Kong. Great to have you guys on the session today.
Thank you, Paul. Happy to be here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, okay, so let's just jump right into it. Justin, let's kick off with you there in Singapore. And let's talk a little bit about, obviously your situation when COVID kind of struck with there within Singapore. A little different situation than what mainland China had, but kind of talk to me about how you guys moved into the process of doing virtual events.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So we were aware that China was having their issues. We see quite a bit of the tourism from them here in Singapore. And as time went on, as we became aware of the extent of this situation, it came to Singapore. And what the government did was the government decided that they were going to close down the city for 2 months. They called it a circuit breaker. They were going to try and slow the spread of this disease. And they shut down most of the trade in the city. And that includes F&B, bars and restaurants, and most things. However, there was one stipulation that places that are listed as restaurants were allowed to continue operating in a delivery/takeout model. And thanks to our restaurant's designation, we were allowed to operate under those parameters. And so it became clear to us that without the in-venue guests, we were going to have to do something different to generate the revenue that we had enjoyed for so long. And from that came the 28 Hong Kong Street house party experience, was the innovation that we came up with. Yeah.
So I want to dive into this a little further with that in my next question. So we've kind of set the stage for what's happening in Singapore with you guys doing the house party. Frankie, your group took a little bit different track, which was kind of more on the educational front. Talk to me a little bit about your mixology courses and how you guys launched online with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So events have always been a pretty popular part of our business model. So there was a lot of requests coming in as far as us being able to still offer that that engagement in those that kind of group events, if you will. And so we had to pivot to virtual basically. And for us, with the fully in-house program, we focus a lot on customization. So we were able to really kind of put that focus on customizing for particular brand activations and people doing obviously like the virtual gatherings and happy hours and things like that. So it's actually worked quite well for us. It's been quite popular, and we're seeing the more and more requests come in. So it's been good. We were forced to close for 4 months basically. So, during that amount of time, it was important that we kind of pivoted our approach. And, just for us as a company as well, and just an overall philosophy, it's all about education and just, maintaining that engagement, with our guests and our clientele. So it's been very fortunate that we've been able to actually pivot towards the virtual model.
I want to get into kind of the mechanics of virtual events for bar owners and operators around the world that might be considering this, even post-COVID. I've seen and talked to a lot of operators who have kind of said, hey, listen, we've kind of established a new framework here about being able to communicate to guests and people who maybe aren't as comfortable going out as much as they used to, but are still wanting to do some unique things around the bar sector. Justin, let's jump back to you and kind of go into the format. When you got the social hour going and kind of the concept there for kind of a virtual happy hour, so to speak, what were some of the ways you reached out? What was kind of your plan to say, okay, this is how we're going to try to get the word out. This is going to be the process. Kind of walk me through, the logistics, so to speak, of how you guys got started.
Sure. So once we recognized that we had to innovate or the business would suffocate, we got to thinking about how we can engage our guests, how we can help our products reach our consumers. And so there were some folks early on in China who had first switched to the bottled cocktail model, and we saw how successful they were doing that. And so we knew that would be part of our engagement with our guests. And so once we found the logistics to get a bottle source and we found cocktails that were stable and we were comfortable sharing with the guests, we had a conversation internally about who we are, what we represent, and how we would want to engage with our guests. And we decided that throwing a party with our guests was very much in line with who we are. Other people were starting to use the Zoom format and things like that for lecture series and things of that nature. But we thought that for us, it was very much on brand for us to help our guests throw parties, and so that's what we did. We started to dissect what it is that makes for a great party, or what it is that specifically makes a 28 Hong Kong Street party, and we found a way to bring that experience into our guests' homes. I'm happy to elaborate on that further.
Well, I want to jump in and kind of ask you, okay, so a guest says, hey, I want to throw a 28 Street Hong Kong party, and I've got a group of friends that I want to bring into this. Were you guys the facilitator of the actual party itself and then provided the cocktails to kind of go with it?
Yep. So before any guests asked whether we had a party, we test drove this idea that we had with sort of a friends and family opening of this idea. Okay. And what we decided to do, what are the things that make a 28 Hong Kong Street house party great? Sure, our food is fantastic. Our cocktails are world renowned. Our playlists are avant-garde and highly regarded here in Asia. And then we realized that it's also very much about, probably mostly about the people. When you think back on a party, you may remember the food, you may remember the cocktails, you might remember a song or two, but you really remember the people that you party with. And so we realized early on that you needed to bring a lot of personality and really treat your guests in the same way that they love being treated in your venue. And so what we would do is we took some of the food that we sell here at the venue that the guests enjoy. We put together a package of cocktails. We found a way through Zoom to stream the playlists from the bar. And then we created a sort of conversation with our guests that sounded very much like it would sound if we were welcoming you into the bar. And
okay.
And we would greet you as such. We would call your Zoom room. We would call it your table. We would send just before the party would begin. We would say, we would message them on WhatsApp. Hey, we're getting your table ready. It'll be ready in just a moment. And then we would try to recreate the experience of a bar where we would be holding. Eventually, we would host multiple parties, but we would talk about spending time with the guests, and then we would go and visit another table, and we would treat it as if it was an experience here at the bar.
So they were able to interact with each other. They were interacting with the bartender or the staff there at 28 Hong Kong. Was there anything? Now I noticed, at least in some of our notes here, that you had like a number of 15 people. Was that kind of the happy medium of what made it work? What was kind of explained to me, because that's I think a big question for a lot of operators right now, is how many people can they do this with?
Sure. So you want to balance. We wanted to balance what we were capable of doing well and bring it to as many people as possible to try and generate some good commercial results. And in the beginning, when we did these soft openings to test drive it, we had smaller groups. 4 or 6 people would participate. And then we didn't know what the demand would be for these parties, and so we put a minimum of 4 people, 2 couples, to participate.
Okay.
And as we did that, they started to be successful, and similar to the lineage of 28 Hong Kong Street, the word of mouth took over.
That's great.
And more people wanted to participate in the experience. And then once the people want to participate, then the corporate entities want to also. And so we did a few. In the beginning, a few corporate house parties, and they were too many people in the room. 20 or 22 people were in that room. The logistics of delivering hot food and cold drinks to 22 locations 30 minutes prior to an engagement was difficult. But also, we found that we realized that we don't seat groups of 20 at our smallish bar.
Exactly.
Here. And so we really wanted it to feel more intimate. I really wanted, when we decided that we wanted the personality to be a driving factor here, we knew that we would need to be able to reach everybody and have everybody participate. If anybody is not participating, then it doesn't feel like a real hangout. And so 15 was the maximum. We were able to achieve our commercial results we needed while making it still feel personal.
Very good that you stayed with what's true to the brand, which I think, if you're trying to connect virtually, especially once you get back and reopened, you've got to be able to kind of connect the dots of those experiences, because most of the time those are probably returning customers to your bar anyway. Frankie, let's jump over to you for the mixology class, because this is a little different structure. It's more lecture style, even though people are very engaged on how to create great cocktails. Trying to recreate a Barchef cocktail now, I'm just going to say that would be a bit of a challenge for me. But how did you guys go about the process of being able to kind of bring that down to an average consumer's level of understanding bar mixology?
For sure. So I mean, it's, the educational aspect of our approach and philosophy has always been like a big kind of driving force of what we do with our events, like through team building and different workshops, before we were actually going into the virtual model. And so, with this current, obviously state that we're in, we've still kind of maintained, like you're saying, that kind of, more instructional approach. And we've been finding that, on the consumers, and guest kind of, preference, they're looking for, those lessons as far as how to be able to actually produce, cocktail bar quality cocktails and Barchef quality cocktails at home. So it's been a matter of us, actually being able to send out our, bitters and syrups that we've made in advance in kits, customizable kits to each guest, so that they receive the kit in advance and they're able to actually follow along and produce the cocktails. And for me, I love doing it, have a great time doing it. So always make sure that they're, super engaging and approachable as well, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. So logistics, both of you guys mentioned logistics here. And I think that's one of the things that really represents some challenges. We've seen that just here in our city, Miami, of operators who have attempted to go this direction. And logistics is usually the hurdle of trying to get the products out to the guests at the right time. Justin, did you guys use third-party delivery, or were you guys doing kind of shagging these yourself out to all your guests? What was the process for you guys?
It was a mixed bag. As you switch from, we never did delivery to begin with. That wasn't part of our model. And so when it came time to turn our business model on its ear, we tried everything at our disposal, including some of our guys would bring their bicycles to the shop, and we deliver personally that way. One of our we have an adjacent company that does distribution for spirits around Singapore. We did some tag-alongs on their delivery trucks, and then we hired people who were out of work who switched their own personal models to delivery. We hired them on a one-on-one basis, and then ultimately the third-party delivery services became very efficient at this moment in time, and that became the bulk of our deliveries. And delivery, mind you, is turned into the most difficult portion of what we were trying to do. We had a very small window of time. We would promise deliveries 30 minutes before your party arrives to as many people as the party had, and we would host concurrent parties. So we would separate the party start times by about 30 minutes, and we would host as many as 3 and in some cases 4 a night. And so delivery in that small time frame was very challenging, and a bit of a puzzle, which was fun to put together. The dispatching.
Yeah,
Surprisingly,
I could see that being the case.
Bothersome and enjoyable.
But so, Frankie, with you guys, what was your process? Did you guys, obviously you were delivering kits and the makeup of the Barchef product, which I was very impressed when I saw the website and kind of what you guys were doing. What was the process that you used to get the product to the customers?
Yeah, so we started, again, like similar to Justin, we were delivering it ourselves, and then we found logistically that with the volume of requests that were coming in, it was just becoming very difficult to actually get them out in a timely manner. So we actually hired one third party again, and it's worked out really well. We've been very fortunate. So.
Yeah, very cool. All right, let's go into the actual cocktails and kind of the menu itself, because this starts to also shift kind of the strategies of how operators would have to make this happen. Because as you mentioned earlier, Justin, you've got to have a product that's stable, it can travel. I mean, now you're really getting into the world of food delivery, which is a whole new science. And I can imagine for you, Frankie, the number of ingredients and the exotic nature of some of those ingredients. Talk to me a little bit about how that presented a challenge, or did it create some opportunities for you, each of you, to kind of create new menu concepts, but yet still staying in line with what your business is really all about? Let's start up with you, Frankie.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cocktails currently on offer, I mean, we obviously, with the customization aspect of what we do, we're able to offer like a full range of cocktail options. We find with these virtual workshops, it works a lot better for the cocktail options to be a little bit more approachable in the flavor profile, so incorporating fresh juices, fresh fruit, et cetera. So we include, a lemon actually in the kit, and we go through the actual, process of properly squeezing the lemon to extract as much juice as we can out of the flesh, and incorporating, fresh herbs in the circumstance that we can actually get, fresh mint delivered to that particular guest if the participants are, close enough so that we can make sure that the quality is maintained. And then as well, like just sending out the simple syrups that we've made in-house, and we, prepare them accordingly so that they are shelf stable and they hold up for the amount of time of traveling to the guests. And then, with that customization aspect, we're able to incorporate that Barchef philosophy, but then while maintaining that approachability, and just kind of really kind of going into the idea and the philosophy of building cocktails, incorporating that culinary philosophy, working with fresh ingredients, and then that exclusive kind of Barchef approach with that incorporation of the spices, et cetera, that we use in our bitters. So.
Yeah, very cool. How about you, Justin? Did you guys reconstruct your menu a little bit, or was this something that, hey, this is only going to be like a virtual time menu product that you would deliver, for your concept?
Yeah, in our case, because it was less of a do-it-yourself kit, we were very much sending out RTD, ready-to-drink cocktails.
Right.
And because once the cocktails leave our venue and go into the guest's home, we're not always so sure what they will do with it, whether they'll finish them that night or try and drink them at some point in the future. So we felt some level of social responsibility to make sure that our cocktails were supremely stable. Therefore, we selected cocktails, or our bar team rather selected cocktails that were didn't contain citrus. Citrus would likely be the first element to turn a cocktail. So we were generally putting more spirit-forward cocktails. We would try to have a variety of spirits. Each one represented a different spirit. We had a vodka, whiskey, rum, so on and so forth. We had 6 cocktails. Also, our bar team, as I understand it, the bar team feels that they don't that bitters doesn't travel well in a drink because the flavor can grow over time. So we were also selecting cocktails that didn't contain bitters either. And the safety and the longevity of the quality was our utmost concern.
Yeah. This is a question for both of you. I'm kind of curious with kind of changing the game plan here for how consumers get your product. Did you guys discover or kind of uncover any new trends or something that maybe you might say, hey, this is kind of working over here. Maybe we should kind of implement this into our bar program. Anything like that happen there for you at Barchef, Frankie?
So we've actually had a bottle-aged cocktail program, that we've been working with here at the bar for a few years now, which led to us creating the company Barchef Project, which is our bottled cocktail company that's actually available for sale at our retail locations here in Ontario called the LCBO. So for us, we've been actually quite, able to maintain that Barchef experience through incorporating that philosophy. And then also as an approach, we've learned a lot over the course of the years as far as, working with the spice elements and the different flavor profiles and what we're doing with bottle aging. So it's been a pretty popular aspect of our program for sure.
Yeah. Justin, with Singapore, I mean, that's been somewhat of a destination city. A lot of tourism goes into that city. Were you catching local traffic, or did you start to see what was the kind of the parameter of the makeup of your guests there?
Our city state here was closed down to all international travel during the circuit break period. Yeah. The government was very much into stopping the spread of this disease or the import of the disease anyhow, and so it was the people who were here in Singapore. Yeah. Some people had been visiting and were stuck here. The rest were the expat community like myself, the locals. Right. There was nobody coming in and out. It was very much whoever was here was here. And tourism had slowed down on your locals for quite dramatically.
Yeah. So leaning on the locals, did you find any trends that says, hey, we gotta jump into something like this for the future of when we bring back the bar itself?
Certainly the bottled cocktailing, which is not something we had been previously doing, it certainly seems like it's here to stay. We are operating now. Okay. We've been operating at reduced capacity with reduced hours for about 3 months now following that circuit breaker period. And ready-to-drink cocktails for delivery remain a viable revenue stream, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. So that certainly is one of them.
That's been definitely a takeaway here during Bar Virtual. We've had several sessions where operators have kind of moved into ready-to-drink or to-go or take-out product. And that seems to be, and it's much like the restaurant industry, we track that as much here on Foodable Network as well. And we did see a massive shift in the food service side that is literally reformatting how most of these restaurants are doing business. I want to talk to both of you about the topic of strategies moving forward. Now that you've got kind of this under your wing, you kind of know how consumers are responding. We do know that it's going to be a slow return, and even here in the States, we still have a lot of bars that are still absolutely 100% closed. So virtual products are really kind of the only solution until we get reopened. But I'm kind of curious, with both of you guys back open, what are you seeing in terms of how am I going to maintain or keep this product going for the future? Let's start with you, Frankie.
Yeah, it's it's a huge emphasis of our approach for sure, and for the foreseeable future is for us it's just like an additional level of an option that we're able to offer our guests, going virtual. And then the benefit of it as well is that we're able, for scalability, just being able to offer that that workshop kind of experience all across the world essentially, with it being virtual. So, we've had requests coming in for anything from 6 people up to 1,000 people for our, workshops that we're doing virtually. So it's a huge aspect of what we do. And then just as a philosophy and a model as a company, we just love educating and just kind of, just increasing the awareness of what's possible with this beautiful genre of like making cocktails and what you can actually achieve by incorporating this new kind of more progressive and avant-garde approach to producing cocktails. So we love doing it, and it's going to be a huge aspect of our business model moving forward for sure.
Very cool. Well, I love the fact that you guys you were kind of already going in this direction. This is not necessarily a pivot for you, but it did really put a huge hyper focus on it. And I wonder, when you look at the future, do you see this weighing out as maybe 20, 30% of your business in the future? Or is there a weight there that could be, hey, this is a real part of our business going forward?
Oh, like if I'll jump in, yeah, like 100%.
Yeah. Okay, well, give me a number, Frankie. Are you thinking like 30%, 40% of your business, 20%?
I would be happy with high 30s for sure. Yeah, 40s.
Okay.
Why not?
That's impressive. Okay.
No, for sure. I think if we're able to offer that same experience and that approachability and that engagement, it seems to be quite popular. I think with not being limited to group sizing and locations, I think we can the sky's the limit with what's possible with this, for sure.
How about you, Justin? So this sounds like a really cool concept to me. I would think for people who are a little bit, sensitive, or maybe just, hey, instead of going out 2 or 3 times a week, they back that down to 1 time a week and then do a virtual. Any kind of potential future for what you guys are doing there for kind of keeping this on the game plan?
Well, one of the things we found is that as they opened the city back up from the circuit breaker lockdowns, was that folks were really sort of chomping at the bit to get back into venues. Right. I mean, you see in the States, our people are really trying to go to the bars, whether or not they're allowed to or supposed to. And that was true here as well. And so as they loosened the restrictions, we found that people would much rather come join us in person. And we would rather have them come here in person as well. But as we move forward, as things have loosened up, there is a portion of the delivery aspect that we need for revenue. But in time, hopefully, we can get back to what we do best, and that's host people
originally,
for the venue.
Yeah, hosting people for those events. Listen, it's been great having both of you on. Frankie Solarik out of Barchef in Toronto and Justin Pallack, 28 Hong Kong Street. Great to have you guys. Thanks for jumping in today.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Yeah. All right, so you guys are continuing to tune in right here on Bar Virtual. We're going to continue our coverage, and we're jumping from session to session with some of the best bar owners and operators around the world. And this is what I think, hopefully giving you some ideas. And remember, if you guys are jumping in on chat, whether it's a live chat, feel free to jump in. If you're catching this on demand after the event, obviously you're going to have a full library, and we're going to continue more coverage here on Bar Virtual as we continue to cover the industry and how the bar industry is going to make its comeback. So stay tuned right here on Bar Virtual. We'll catch you soon.